Hello guys and welcome to another video. If you are new to the channel here, welcome. We are here talking about everything Alfa Romeo Fiat Group combined, and today we have here a video, very special video, a compilation video for intake manifolds. So we have here mainly diesel intakes, okay? We also have here some V6, some 33 and also some 75 intake manifolds. I think this video will do for 90%, 95% of everything that you need, okay? So as you can see here, this is my room to assemble engines, heads, the manifolds, and many other things, also gearboxes. We also do hear that on the channel. The clips to come on this video are in fact parts of videos that I already did here on the channel. So if you are interested in see what are the full videos, they are down in the description. In that way you can well, watch everything till the end, okay? So here we go. This is the compilation video that I have for you for intake manifolds, and over here I have a manifold so you to see what's what regarding here the swirl flaps. It is a very critical subject, so I believe we are to start here with that, okay? What do you guys think? Over here on this manifold, this is the first generation of swirl flaps of Fiat Group. So this came out in around 2002, 3, 4, thereabouts, depends on the country actually. And over here in Portugal, we've seen this after 2004, 5, 6, thereabouts, okay? So this essentially does is to, so we have here the manifold for the 16 valve head, and we have here 8 or 4 intakes, okay? So if you have a very slow engine aspiration of the air, this will close up here half of the pathways and increase the acceleration here of the air, okay? Yes, I know this is a terrible system, but despite that, this is not the worst system ever. This actually is one of the best systems that we have, because after that we have this system over here, the half and half, so half plastic and half aluminium. And this one is the worst because the fins on this one are plastic and the fins on that one are metal, thin like paper. So these ones are the ones that are swollen by the engine, and these ones are the ones that pop out of the manifold. So choose whatever you like to be your worst problem. I prefer this one. This one is better for efficiency because plastic manifolds are better for that, okay? Thermal efficiency. Be my guest here to see the rest of the video. Everything that I'm saying over here, it is thoroughly explained on the video to come, and in that way I hope to be helpful for you, okay? Over here we have the actuator that connects here to this this arm over here. A small arm connecting the two ones is present, and the factory is set to remove the arm and lock this open, taking advantage here of the hole to close it open like that, to stack it open like that, and no remap is necessary to do that, okay? The electrical connector still stays in place and whatnot. So everything that I'm saying over here, it will be down on this video, and in this way I hope you like what I have for you, okay? Hello guys, how are you? You may have heard about Swirl. What the hell is Swirl, and how can you know if your car still has it or not? As you can understand, the manufacturers of engines don't do things just because. If the car has the Swirl, it was for some reason. And the reason was, when you have the Swirl, you can switch from 2 intake valves to 1 intake valve. That may seem a little bit odd, but in fact, one intake valve, like the 8-valve JTD engines, are better at low RPM than at higher. And so we can have a combination between 1 valve per cylinder and 2 valves per cylinder. That is great for a little bit more power at low RPM and for emission restrictions. So how can you tell if your car does still have your Swirl system? On this case, we opted through a copper, not a copper, but like copper metal on there, and over there, the other one over there, and another one over there, and another one on the bottom side. Again, you don't need a remap in order to do so, at least on the multi-jet engines, okay? On the other brands, makes and models, I don't know. But on these cars over here, you don't need a remap to do so. You just need to take out that little clip that goes through the actuator to your swirl system, remove it, and the actuator actuates by himself without doing nothing. Do not remove the plug from the actuator, okay? Being 5 cylinders or 4 cylinders, it does not matter. Don't forget that most of the times the holes for the swirl valves are not round anymore. So those quick plugs that we have available on the internet will not work, okay? We have to open up the hole to be a nice round shape and then have a machined parts to do the plugging. Do not just purchase the parts and expect them to work just like that. This is not a on-off thing that you can do. This is a specialty work that it has to be made by someone that has the equipment to open the holes the right size and to insert the plugs by force, because as you can understand, on the intake manifold you have the pressure from the turbo. If you just insert those plugs with the O-rings, poof, they will all leave the engine. Today on this video, I will show you how to remove that intake manifold on this 16 valve 1.9 multi-jet engine, okay? This intake manifold over here has some leaks, and the customer tried to repair them with some glue, but as you can imagine, having the boost pressure inside of that intake manifold, it will push out that glue over there, okay? So, as you may see right now, I have here a partial disassembly because before I was doing here the video for the gearbox, and that is done, so I now have here this partial disassembly to help me out to take out this intake manifold. I already took out here also the intake pipes. You already seen that on other videos, okay? And right now what I'm about to do is to remove that high pressure fuel pump. I already showed you how to remove it without removing the timing belt on these engines. It's very possible to do, very easy to just create access there to engage on those two holes over there, okay? So if you are curious about that, down on the description you have a video for that. Let's go. All of the wiring harness has to be disassembled and put to that side of the engine. It has to be on that side because we have to reach the manifold and pull it out like that. So nothing can be in that way. We have to remove everything that is on the way of the manifolds. So all of the wiring has to go that way. It is not very difficult, okay? Taking out here the plug for the compressor, AC compressor. Take out these two clips over here, that one and that one. Put it up. Take out here this connector. Next, take out here the clip. Now the wiring starts to go from behind the power line, the power steering line over here in this direction. Remember on my video about the injectors, the way to remove here these connectors for the injectors, and also how to put a zip tie. We also have to remove here these vacuum lines. This model here is back there a vacuum chamber, a vacuum reservoir that you have to be careful with. The vacuum box is held down with two nuts, top and bottom. Take them out and remove the vacuum box altogether. I advise you not to remove these vacuum lines as you can break up the vacuum box. The bottom nut can be a little bit tricky to take out, but it's not very hard. Now the vacuum box will heat up here on these pipes, and you may have to screw them out or force them a bit out, as you can see. And so by following these metal pipes over here, you will have two nuts there on the side of the starter, and over here near the thermostat you will have another nut over there that you want to back up, and that way the metal pipes will be able to move a bit to take out here the vacuum box. Now, it is not crucially necessary to do, but if you are doing this for the first time or second one, you want to have as more space as possible to do so. Normally what I do is just to back up everything just a little bit, and that way I can do the job, but I want to show you if you are doing this for the first time, okay? One more screw over here to hold down the vacuum lines. Just remove it. Pull up the vacuum lines. While you are pushing out the metal pipes like this, take out the vacuum box. Best to take out here this breather hose to a side to make more room. The best thing really would be to take out the vacuum lines, but I'm really afraid to do that, not to mess anything. Maybe I'll do it from... So it's out of the studs. Now it's a matter of pulling it around, but I have a wiring harness. Maybe now it's the time to pull it back. I have one more connector to the high pressure fuel pump. Just like on the injectors, be very careful with the connector. I have one more wire for the oil switch, but I don't want to mess with that right now. Sometimes we have to work like this. We have to switch your position. Right now I want to take out here this breather hose that goes, or this pipe that goes back there to the oil separator. This car has an oil catch can from factory. It is that oil separator, and it is no maintenance because it will put the oil back into the oil sump, so it's much easier on this. So I want to take out here this metallic one for two reasons. It is on my way to take out there the vacuum box and whatnot, and also because it is in the way of the intake manifold itself, so it has to be removed anyway. Okay, so now here, just putting to the side here this power steering hose, so I can reach here this bolt and that bolt over there. Taking advantage here of my position, I will remove here this return collector of the diesel. These bolts are not correct. Before taking out the bolts, I should have removed here these hoses, but let's try it anyway. This one is easy. Make sure to do it with a blunt screwdriver, not to be very harmful for the hoses. Maybe on this I can. I also have to take it out in this. At some point we'll have to take out here also the coolant, because we have lines going up through this intake manifold and also a passageway through the intake itself. So most of the coolant must come off. Again, on this Alfa 159 is very easy to do, like I showed you before. Sometimes we have to work a little bit harder, but it's best to do like this than to break anything else, and in this way a much more satisfying job. While we have this out here, make sure that the hoses do not have any creases, any tears, any way of the vacuum to escape. You can also test this box. I'll tell you about that in another video. Okay, just put it to a side, a safe side, and let's carry on. Look at this, the command rail is loose. So about this high pressure fuel pump, I already did a video for this. It is down on the description on the Alfa 156 8-valve engine. It is very similar to this one, really very similar. This one has a lot more access to it, so it's much easier. So not much to tell over here. This nut is not from here. Actually, this has to use 12mm nuts, not 13, and it has to be self-locking ones. So for this, I have 2 more nuts, as you can remember, and I do not know if they are 12 or 13, so I have to pick a little bit to find out. But I think they are 13. Another 13. I have to put new or good used nuts over here, because this can back up with vibration. Once again, if you need to, you can drop the nuts, because you will take out the high pressure fuel pump anyway, so you can reach for them. Also, above that, these ones will not be reused, so even if they fall onto the ground, no matter. Once again, on the earlier models like the 156, you had a 13mm nut, yes, but with a washer. This one does not have it. And on these ones, you have a 12mm nut with a flange, and it is self-locking. As you can see on this high pressure fuel pump, you have the keyway that you have to respect over here, and the position of it is the assembly is the one that I told you on the assembly of the other high pressure fuel pump. In fact, as I did the video for the timing belt of the 8-valve one, I told you how should you synchronize this high pressure fuel pump. It's not completely necessary to do it, but the car really starts a little bit better. The idea is, as you have this high pressure fuel pump synchronized, it avoids, every time it pumps one of the 3 chambers, it avoids or tries to avoid a open injector, okay? In this way, providing you with a better start while you are cranking. So basically now you have to take out here this stud in order to create here some room for the intake manifold to slide out. You only need to remove this one. Now this is the part that you may be very annoyed, but I am very happy, because this intake manifold will come out of this engine without me removing here this bracket, because as you can see down there, I have no material there to stop me to slide this intake off, and in that way much less work to do. Okay, so now it's just a matter of taking out here the support, the bracket for the oil separator, best known by oil catch can, and that's about it. I just have here 3 nuts over here, 1 bolt, another lower bolt over there, I'll show you in a minute, and then take out the nuts that hold down the intake itself and slide it out. The swirl on this one is already deleted, so I would not do a video for that, but I would have a video for a swirl delete soon on my channel, because I have a GT to do also, and on that one I may have to take out the bracket or the support for the high pressure fuel pump, because that one, it is a different type. But on this one, I'm glad it is like this, so I can show you that it is possible. About the swirl actuator, the electric one, it has to remain here, and it has to remain connected to the wiring harness. It has to move freely during the entire operation, and it is not necessary to remove it in terms of software. 13mm head bolt take it out all the way, if possible, with a magnet, for example. And as you can see, the bracket is now very much free, ready to take out. One by one, remove the 12mm nuts from this intake manifold. Not 8, 9. Now with this we'll have still the actuator attached to the intake, but that is not the problem normally. But if you are not able to remove it, like I am not being able right now, at least without forcing it, you can take out the two studs that hold down the actuator in place. Not very difficult at all to do it. Sometimes you have space and other times you do not. It depends a lot on the cars. Makes on the year of construction. You have different brackets, different actuators. So you have to adapt to your current situation. These are two studded screws that are here to hold down to the actuator and also provide a fitment to this bracket of the breather hoses of the oil catch can. Here it is. You have here also the gasket. Already removed the coolant. This intake manifold will split in two. For that we have to take out the bolts over here. We have 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15. So we have here the bolts, they are T25, and we will crack this open to be easier to clean. As you can imagine, it will be much easier. But as we have the glue that is not from factory, let's see if it is that easy to remove. People usually use RTV on all the wrong places, and where they should use it, they don't. Let's clean this out, reseal it, and assemble everything again. Search now for any problems on the threadings, mainly there on the EGR mountings, because if some is wrong, now is the time to repair it. Mainly here on the EGR, for example, if some of them are bad, now it's time to repair them. Everything is cleaned up. Now we have to do a nice thick layer of RTV to fill up this cavity all around. It has to be high enough to be squashed once we put the other half of the intake manifold in, okay? If you can see this over here on the inside, you can take that out, but wait a few hours until it dries up. It will be very easy to remove with a screwdriver, okay? Just peel it off. Very easy. Next, bolt down here the swirl actuator. Remember that it has to be in place because it has to be connected, but this little piece over here has to come off, okay? Because if it is just disconnected, it can bind, it can be stuck and then launch a fault code. Next, we are good to go on the oil separator, on the oil catch can. So we can put the nut over there, a bolt over here and another bolt down there. It's time here for the high pressure fuel pump. And do not forget that this one has a key that you have to match up with that keyway over there. So be very careful to introduce the high pressure fuel pump because the key itself may fall off, okay? It's very important to be correctly mounted because if not, the shaft may be forced because the keyway can be in this position right like so, okay? And that may cause a lot of problems. Sometimes a little bit of grease may help to fix it in place, okay? sure to do a bunch of ignition cycles so you can purge out all of the air to the diesel tank, because we removed some fuel lines and the high pressure fuel pump and whatnot, and this will help out quite a bit on the first start. As you can imagine, the first start will not be very fast because of the air still trapped on the lines. Okay. Very nice. Make sure to check for any leaks. Make sure to check for something out of place. I will do a very thorough cleanup here on the engine base so it's more presentable to the customer. About the assembly here of several components that I did not show on this video, it is because I already showed you on other videos. They are down on the description. I'm talking about there the EGR, for example, the throttle body, for example, the battery and battery tray, the intake on that side over there. All of that is down on the description for other videos related to EGR, related to DPF, for example. I have also for that, related to a lot of stuff. Also down on the description you have a lot of videos related to this one and related to other areas of the car, for example lack of power, brakes and whatnot. Okay, also down on the description you have links for helps for the channel if you are able to do so. Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we are doing here a swirl delete on this beautiful Alfa GT, and as you can see over here, we already have this rod out of place, which means that at any time these flaps over here will start to be swollen by the engine. As you may remember, I did here a repair on the injectors of this car. The car now has a very nice start, very much almost perfect, but I still have on number 2 and 3, I still have a problem with high correction of the injectors. I will remove this intake manifold because I want to prevent the flaps to be swollen by the engine, but also to see if they are closed, I will have less air being pushed into the engine. I think they are closed, and in that way provoking a higher correction on that injectors. Another thing, if we have a lot of carbon of the EGR on the valve seats themselves, we'll have a loss of compression, provoking here also this issue. So in this way I'll try 2 or 3 things at the same time to prevent the problem with the swirl flaps and to try to see if we have any issues with the valves. Now, to take it off, you just follow the procedure that I did over there on the Alfa 159. The video, the link is down on the description. I'm just finishing up that one, and I'm doing this one at the same time. Very curious that, but it's just the way it is, okay? So I just took out here the high pressure fuel pump. I already have a video for that as well. I took out here the wiring. Now the thing is, unlike this intake manifold over here, which is possible to remove without taking out the high pressure fuel pump support, on this GT it is not quite the same story. So I have to take out all of the timing belt. I have several videos for timing belts and chains. So as you may see, as I am trying to take out here this manifold, it will rub against here the support. So I have to take out the support to a side, I'll take it off, and for that I had to put again there the high pressure fuel pump to be able to rotate the engine to PMS, because at the time it is not. Remember that this position to lock this cog over here, it is not PMS, it is something different. So now I have to find a way to rotate the engine to PMS to be able to remove here the timing belt. For the timing belt thing, it will be for another video, okay? Do not worry about that. I'm just focusing here now on the removal of the intake manifold, very similar to the 159, yes, but on this case we have to take out here the support. Remember that this video is for the annulment, for the modification here of the swirl flaps. So no matter what is the final result here for the engine, for the idle of the engine, at least we have that covered. And then in the future, the customer can decide or not to remove the head to see what's what with the engine. But I believe it will be, well, it is so good right now. I believe it will be way better with this solution over here, that maybe it is not necessary to remove the head at least on the next few years. Okay, so let's go. Okay, as you can see, the pulley here is locked because the tool locked the camshaft, okay? But we have an adjustment over here, okay? I just want to tell you that about the timing. Can you remember my video on the timing of the twin spark engine? It's still locked, okay? Look at the adjustment. Now, knowing firsthand that you have to do this on this support, on this bracket of the high pressure fuel pump, it is not necessary to remove the high pressure fuel pump. You can just take it to a side with the high pressure fuel pump in place, okay? But mine is already kind of loose, so I will remove it for a weight reason and also to be able to record better, gain access so I can record better with my camera, okay? But it's not necessary if you know that you have to take out the entire bracket to a side. To show you what we have to do, this is the bracket that is there on the side of the engine, and we have over here one bolt over here, another one over here, here and over here, okay? We'll get to them in a minute. This one over here is broken because someone did not put a bolt on, and with the vibrations it broke off, because this bolt over here is very difficult to remove. And right here you can see clearly the issue that we have with the intake manifold. As you want to push out the intake manifold, it will rub against this structural beams over here, okay? Some supports are not like this, like we have there on the Alfa 159, and on older cars like a 8-valve one, it also is very smooth, does not have this ribs over here, and in that way it's possible, like you saw on the 159, to remove the intake manifold. These ones are not, so we have to take out here the bolts. Maybe it is a little bit more familiar, like this, okay? So we have one over here, there, over here, and the broken one right there, okay? I know that this can be salvageable, yes, I know, but I will not do it until I have, well, kind of, until I have a customer for it or need for it, okay? Now, just like on the 159, we have here the oil catch can that we have to pull back, and we have there also the vacuum reservoir that I will not mess with. I think it is not necessary on this case. We still have the same 3 nuts over here, one over there, and here a bolt actually, and down there on the on the 159 it is a 13mm head. On this one it is a 10 also, okay? So just take that back like I did on the 159, and in that way we'll be able to create access to our work. Just like on the 159, the actuator for the swirl flaps has to be here and it has to be connected. It is not necessary to remove it by software. So the access is created. We just now have to take out those 2 screws over here, those 2 bolts. As you may be able to see, one bolt is missing on the support. The lower one, it is there next to, you cannot see, next to the sensor, the oil sensor. It is a switch, okay? It is there, so everything is good. Here on the actuator, that little plastic thing will come off. It is not necessary to be there anymore. And also it is really not necessary, because if it is stuck, it will create a fault code. The other 2 screws that I'm mentioning are behind this. Very difficult to reach. Be careful with that. Here it is. All the bolts are 13mm head, okay? On these 2 ones over here, I found it much more easy for me to approach it from the right side. Put this 13mm head socket, then this medium extension over here, and then when it's in place, you can actually see through that hole the extension. When it is in place, I put this smaller extension over here, and then the ratchet, and it's ready to go. The same thing on the other bolt over here. This one, it is a little bit easier, because the left one over here has the pipe for the power steering pump, and it is a little bit snug, let's call it that, okay? So the approach from the right side, my right hand over here, instead of the left side, it is much more easy for me, and the right one is really easy. Now that one that is next to the oil switch, the oil pressure switch from the engine. And so here they are, 1 bolt, 2 bolts, 3, and 1 missing over here, the same as this one. These metallic gaskets are reusable, just like the gaskets on the exhaust, for example. On this case, on this car, I will put a restrictor plate on the EGR. An annulment is not on my plans right now. In order to remove the freeze plugs of these engines, you have to do this exact job. So if you want to prevent this, do not forget to do the mandatory maintenance on the cooling system, 2 years or every 60,000 kilometers with good quality antifreeze. Now here the manifold, you can see that on number 1, 2 and 4, they are closed, which means there is no proper airflow going into the engine, and with that you definitely can have problems with correction of the injection. So that will be solved. Everything will be assembled. No flaps were swollen by the engine, which is really good. And in this way, I'm very happy for this. So let's carry on. Open up the manifold, clean it up, close up the holes that are here, that will be here on these spots, as you can imagine, as it was done here on this one, on this manifold earlier. So they are plugged up. The same will be done with this manifold over here, maybe with freeze plugs or something. And that will be done on the machine shop, because they will open up the hole to the next size of the freeze plug in order to have a perfectly round hole for the freeze plug. Here it is, guys. It's not that bad. It is a little bit full with carbon deposits, but not the worst that I've seen so far. And here on the EGR part, on the intake, as always, a lot of obstruction. And you may ask me, is there any way to remove this? Those magical hydrogen cleanings and whatnot, and additives on the fuel? No. Nothing will clean this at all, unless you do exactly like this. Okay, take it apart, clean it very well, scrub it, do whatever it takes to clean it, and then you can put again everything back together and take care of the EGR. As you can see, you have here these freeze plugs that are put in, and also have those 4 spots that keep the plug in place. Okay, this is cleaned all the way through. It was opened like I showed you earlier. Okay, and everything is very clean. On this car I will not deactivate the EGR, but I will put the restrictor plate as I showed you on other videos. I will do here the assembly of this manifold, okay, and then I will do the assembly of the high pressure fuel pump support and the high pressure fuel pump itself, and the rest of it is very close, very similar to that 159 that you may have seen on the channel earlier, but I'll guide you through, okay? I have here the other 147 that had that issue with the remap. I also will do here the intake manifold. This one had to be sandblasted because it was really very bad. I still have to remove here these small pieces of RTV, okay, not to be an issue. And I will do the exact work that I'm doing here on this Alfa GT. It is exactly the same on this engine. So you have the video for the Alfa GT, you have the video for the 159, and this is exactly the same thing, okay? Oh my god, I just saw something. Oh my god, they cut this to remove it. And now I will have a water leak. Oh my god. Well, this one is garbage. So you have here a passageway of water that goes from here to here and goes in here to this little smile. The smile is broken. So I will have to take that out. Yes, I have to do that anyway, so I will remove it. They did that not to remove here the bracket for the high pressure fuel pump, and I will have to modify that one like I did on this one in order to work. So this one here is garbage. That will not be very pleasant for the owner. Oh no. Now to put here the support for the high pressure fuel pump, you need to have a little bit of nerves of steel and have a lot of calm. So you have here the two long bolts that go over here, one over there, another one over here. You have two little ones that go one here, one there. One is missing, I have another one, okay? And you have another one over here, that goes on the side of the timing belt, facing side of the engine. Don't forget that we have guides that we have to engage on the block, the dowels. Introduce the bolts just by hand, just to have a feel for it. So the two long bolts were introduced with the bracket at the same time. So I do not have to fight with them to go in place. So you have to do the approach here from the right side. It's not very easy because of the steering lines, the power steering lines, but it is possible, okay? Just very annoying. And you have to use several attachments to make it work. Make sure not to drop your socket, that may happen. Make sure they are torqued to spec, because I already seen some of these brackets loose and then they break the high pressure line that goes from the high pressure fuel pump to the rail. this down here has to go with the bracket, okay? Cannot be after. The actuator over here stays in place, connected to the plug, to the connector, okay? Only this little clip has to be off, so it does not wind on anything. I do have a video for this high pressure fuel pump, and it is down on the description, how to remove it, why to remove it, fault codes, and diagnosis and whatnot, okay? Now we have here the bracket for this oil separator and the vacuum reservoir that you have to, well, you just have here those two studs, one over there, another one over there, and a threading over there, which you have to do like so, and another one there on the bottom over there that goes to the support of the high pressure fuel pump. So unlike the 159, that one is a 10mm head bolt. On the 159 is a 13mm head bolt, and you just want to put this in place and screw it all in. Correct bolts for this return line reservoir are these ones with a 10mm head. If you are curious about this special gasket that I did over here, you can purchase it on the dealership, yeah, and you can also build it yourself. I just built one. You can see down on the description I have videos for EGR systems, and I explain you all about this one gasket over here and some others that I have explaining. Everything is explained on the video just for EGRs, and you can be more informed about that, okay? Also the assembly over here of the EGR itself, you can see on that video. By the way, to put this special gaskets, you do not need any modification on terms of software. This bracket here holds up this breather pipe over here. On the 159s there are two 10mm nuts. On the 147 Alfa GT in 156 these are 8mm nuts. Now here on this intake valve, no need to do a full cleaning of this because we are not deleting the EGR, so this will get very nasty again. It is quite good enough, okay, no big chunks, so we are to assemble this as is, no problems whatsoever. These gaskets are metallic ones, and you can reuse them. If you start to notice a seeping of oil here on the bottom, on this one or on this front one, you can replace them, yes, but I usually see that is not necessary. Also to refer that these gaskets, the aftermarket ones, are horrible, and as soon as you put a new one it starts leaking almost immediately, and the original ones, they last you a long time, so I'm keeping the original ones the most that I can so I can have less problems. So 3 5mm head bolts, one here on the bottom side, so on the 159 this will be electric, on this ones it is a pneumatic actuator. The importance of this actuator is crucial for the flywheel, like I told you on so many other videos. Here on this gasket it is exactly the same thing, so I'm using the same one. If I can find the spot, here it is. And again, keeping up with the original ones is better because of leaks. And down in the description you have videos for this flywheel thing over here, the protector of the flywheel. I have several videos for that if you are interested in seeing that. They are down on the description. Make sure the threading is good. Okay, it is now. Sometimes the gasket gets in the way of understanding if the bolts are entering correctly, because the gasket does not have a round hole. It is a triangular shaped hole to hold down to the gasket while you are inserting everything. Here it is, here you have it, everything is assembled. So the remaining part of this job is the timing. These 16 valve ones have the adjustment over here, so you have to have here this tool, and also down on the crankshaft also the locking tool to do the job, okay? On the high pressure fuel pump, this one uses the key, so you should put the pump on the correct markings, but it's not really necessary, okay? On this side over here, everything is assembled. The wiring is super easy. Everything over here on the injectors you already saw on another video. it was on this car. The idle was very rough, very bad, and a lot of smoke was coming out of the exhaust. A video down on the description will be available. That problem is solved with the correction of these injectors, and in that way that part is also solved. Remember this Alfa 147, we have an issue with the power. It's not non-linear power. Well, the customer is now back again to solve that issue, but meanwhile the car was on another workshop because it's closer to the owner's residence to do the job here on the intake manifold. The intake manifold was removed, cleaned, and put back together again. Okay, less work for me, yes, and I'm glad for that, because fortunately I have a lot of work here in my home, but it's not great, okay, because the swirl is still there. If you want to know more about that, the swirl in the cleaning, I already have 2 videos for that. It is down on the description, so you can notice that you still have there that linkage that opens and closes the flaps, and for that we also have here this link to actuate those flaps. What I'm doing here now to make sure the problem is not there, because on the fluctuation on power, if you have an opening and closing flaps on the swirl over there, we can have this issue. And to test that before doing anything else, we will do what the factory said at the beginning of this problem. It is to remove this link over here, and with that hole over there, lock the flaps permanently open. Okay, let's do that to test if the problem is there. So after a close inspection over here, I just the last time the car was here, I had a feeling it did not have any swirl flaps. I have to check on the earlier video, and after a close inspection, does not have even the actuator. So this intake manifold is not from this car, and on the attempt to move the swirl flaps to the open position, they are glued shut. Okay, even though it is badly done, it's not right like this, at least open the flaps, okay? The better is to remove them, but at least open does not account for the fluctuation of the power, okay? The problem is not that. If you have them closed, you just have low power at high RPM. At low RPM you have a lot more power, that's why they are here, okay? The swirl flaps. But the problem is not on the swirl flaps. So let's test here the vacuum lines, okay? Then, if everything is good with the vacuum lines, we have here a problem with the remap, because I know for sure that this car has a remap. The owner told me he just did one, okay? And the problem persists. Let's start with a clean slate here with the remap, and before that, check here the vacuum lines. So the first part of this issue is the swirl flaps. I just want to explain you why they are there in the first place and what is the problem of having them permanently shut down. So you have here intake manifold, and you have 8 holes because you have a 16 valve engine. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? And we have the air rushing down through the turbo and the hoses and whatnot, and entering through the engine at high pressure, okay? But at low idle, that air does not have enough velocity to create a good swirl on the combustion, okay? So what the system does is to intervene here by closing half of those channels. In that way, the same quantity of air now has to pass through only 4 of the holes, and the velocity of that air has to double. In that way, creating an excellent swirl. But now at higher RPM, you need again to open again the holes to allow you for the more quantity of air to be able to gain more speed, more RPM, and more torque on the engine. If you have the permanently shut down like it is right now in the car, if you have the permanently closed flaps like it is right now in the car, at high RPM, namely 3000 RPM up, you will have a very flat power line like it is happening now on the car. The similar issue can happen if you have everything working, but the intake is very clogged with the soot and EGR paste that normally builds up on these intake manifolds. So what you should do is to open permanently the swirl flaps like this, always taking the risk of not having so much torque down below on the lowest RPMs, okay? That is the function of the swirl flaps, is to have good down low power and also have very high power at high RPMs. Having the best of both worlds, like having a geometry turbo on the intake, okay? So you have good flow at low and good flow at high RPM, okay? And now for our next trick, we have here the intake manifold. This intake manifold is in two pieces, as you can see over here, and it means that you have an internal gasket set. So you have your normal gasket that goes over there. I do not have it right now, I have to have it come in, and then you have just a normal thing, okay? This manifold is already drilled out through, so it has no flaps, and for that you do not need to put in the older style of the manifold, okay? So you can also do something. So Alfa Romeo did when we had service bulletins, every time we did some service bulletin, we did a white dot on the parts. That signifies to other technicians that the modification required by the factory is already performed. This is not a modification by the factory, but I can, well, in my view, I believe it is a more original way to preserve things. So the gasket set that goes over here is not available anywhere, I believe, from the research I did on the several past years. But also you can very well reuse this gasket set. So we have here four, so for the 4 holes, and another round one. This one is available at any hydraulics shop, okay? Now, two things. We have here a hole. Not every engine has this hole working. Depends on the manufacturer specification. Some of them have a little nibble over here that goes here and has a orange cap sealed off. That is the case on this engine, okay? Another ones have a thing that goes into the reservoir. For this case, they always break. They are always broken, and I can put the nibble in and it'll still seal because the area where the O-ring lives is okay. But I usually do another thing, that is, when I have this to the machine shop, they do the work of removing the swirl flaps and cover the holes, obviously, of the swirl flaps. They also can put in there something. Normally it is a blind screw to cover that up. I have to send it out to do that because this one is not done yet, okay? And as you can see, everything was thoroughly cleaned and washed properly, including there on the inside, by the same company. It is cheaper this way for me, have it being done, than to do it myself, because that way I can do other stuff, and that way it is cheaper for the customer. Okay, then that goes over there, and you can assemble everything in one piece into place. After that, putting in here the support for the high pressure fuel pump and doing everything else, including here some other stuff. And we already have here our intake manifold thingy over here. As you can see, we have a screw over there. This went to the machine shop to be done, so it is properly done and with warranty. Also, we have here our new gasket, and on this side, like I said, we have to reuse this set of gaskets. They are very, very high quality, and plus not available, so no matter, okay? So over there on that tip, we had and I have another thing here to show you, intake that still has the swirl flaps. These ones are really the worst, because the first generation was thick enough not to be swollen so easily by the engine. These ones are like paper, and they start to, that one is really starting to let go, okay? And over there we have the broken tip of it. Okay, now even if it is broken does not mean it is bad, because the broken part is not the area where the O-ring is sealing. The broken area is only the part that fits into the hole. So you can actually reuse this as is, even if it is broken like this. If it is just sheared off on that area, it's not possible, but usually they break out like that, like this. And then you have two types. We have the type with this capped off thing, and we have this type that leads you to the expansion tank and other places. Okay, so this engine uses this type. For this type you can block it off like that, no issues whatsoever. Okay, if you have this type over here, you can actually insert this even if it is broken like this. So this part over here goes to the EGR, for example. It's already cleaned off, no carbon whatsoever, and I had to redo all of the threads. Actually it was only 3, but the other one was kind of and I just did all 4. Okay, also very easy to do, and I did already showed you how to do. Just a needle coil. Okay, so we are to assemble this here onto the engine. With that, even if the swirl flaps are not working, the modulator, the thingy, what are you? The electric controller will still be in place and will still move back and forward, but the part that goes over there will not be attached, or it can be attached, but not necessary to be attached, because over there on the inside all of the mechanism is not in use. Okay, it goes over there, spins freely, and I usually do not put that part over there, because imagine that something binds on the inside over there, then you have codes, and we do not want that. So no need whatsoever to do a remap because of this. The software can do very well the management of the flow without having any fault codes for this. Okay, this is true since the beginning of Swirl flaps until the new type that came out on the Juliettas and Stelios and whatnot. Okay, so all the way since 2002 until 2012, 15 maybe, yeah. Let's go. Another thing from factory, and this is not really that special, we have here 3, not 2, 3 divots that go there, there, and there. And you can use these divots to hold down the gasket in place. Okay, this is not really important. It is not mandatory to use. The thing is, when you are removing these parts, all these parts, make sure for these divots not to fall into the engine. That is my assumption here. Okay, so you can actually use them or not. Okay, you decide. So this is not the final assembly, just doing here some mock-up to know what to do next. Kind of know, but sometimes my mind plays tricks. So for example, it is crucial that to install here the controller first. I know that this should go all in one piece, but I'm lazy. As you can see, no connection over there. So we have 2 bolts on one side that go over here, and another bolt bigger that goes over there. The head is 30 torques. just tight enough. No RTV, no glue, no nothing over here on the gasket side. Okay, now you have the plastic side that holds down with 2 bolts, if I recall. I believe so. That go over there and there. Again, these 2 bolts are not for final torquing, are just to hold down the 2 pieces together, because all of the squishing will be done by 9 nuts, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. And that will squish together the plastic part and the metallic part. Like I said, nonetheless, it is a very good system. Just a shame that the flaps are a little bit loose sometimes. So 5mm head bolts. If you have any doubts, go to EP, but on this case, this and this is only one piece, so these bolts may not be available. Fair to see. Just to hear some light torque. These bolts are over here just for the O-rings and all of the seals not to escape while we are doing here the tightening. So these are available on EP, these nuts. They are 12mm head. They can be reused on the intake side. On the exhaust side, they cannot. So we've been through this a bunch of times, a few times now, and I do have videos for intakes, the earlier type intake, the aluminium type. Can you guess the tightening force of this nut? Even here with this sandwich thing. Next we can do here this intake portion. Be careful that you have here an O-ring. This one you can buy it on any old hydraulics shop. Just carry this with you. They take the measurements and they decide what to give you. Ask for Viton material, okay? Then this part over here goes tightened here with 3 bolts, the same bolts that go over there, the 5mm head ones, and down here 2 12 torque head bolts over here, okay? Torque, whatever. So that, a bit of grease over here. Do not use RTV. Tá bem? Oh yeah. Now the seal is very tight still. I'm just confirming here that it's not cut through. See if the bolts go in by hand. If not, you have to clock it. Here on the EGR we are going to do the modification. If you need videos for that, I have them on my channel. So for example, here on the intake we have 4 volts one type, 5 volts another type, and this is correctly shown on EPR if you want to see that, okay? In principle we can do this with this bracket on. I actually did it several times on the cars in its place, so this will not be an issue, okay? And here on this side we have the EGR cooler and whatnot we'll do for after this. Be very aware. These smaller bolts over here are very similar but not the same, so they have the same head but they are not the same length or the same tip as other ones used here on this engine, namely here on the thermostat housing. So be very careful. You take like 2 minutes to check this on EPR and it will be the best thing you can do. So new gaskets over here, everything is cleaned out professionally on the inside. So professionally means that I send this to an ex-specialist to do the cleanup. Turns out to be cheaper than do it at home, okay? Over here on this bolt, what did happen previously on an engine like this here at workshop, the space, when you have the alternator, the space is not perfect and the wrench ends up being like that, and the head was stripped out, and I was able by EPR to ask for my dealership to send me a bag of these bolts over here, okay? They are not expensive, not at all, and I just did the new bolts. And I have some reserve ones because this tends to happen on this engine. Again, being 8mm thickness bolts, the body of the bolt, it's always around 25 Newton meters, 20 to 25. So sometimes I do 22.5, sometimes I do 25. Over here I will do the 25 in C. About the tightening of the bolts and the procedures and everything like that, you have eLearn, not EPR, to check that out. But you can start to see the pattern over here on the tightening, okay? Very handy, this torque wrench. Goes from 8 newtons to 25. Check that out. Hooray. Now here for the EGR cooler system thingy, I hope I'm not being a little bit too early because I have still things to sample here on the back of the engine, namely the oil catch can. Again, this engine has oil catch can, like all Alfa Fiat engines, gasoline and diesel. So let's hope I can do that. Probably I will not be able to do that very easily, so I will do that after. What I wanted to say is, remember that the gasket held down by its own. So here we have the oil catch can. It is truly not the halfway, it is truly an oil catch can. The only difference is, instead of you having to service it, it is self-draining. It drains back to the oil sump. Okay, it separates the air and the water. Yes, the water, the oil and the air. and the oil goes to the sump, the air goes to the turbo. Yes, the air goes to with a bit of humidity, and that is perfect to increase horsepower. Dear God. Now, you want to identify the bolts, there and there, there and there, and the gasket. Where on here will you search for this? Tell me down on the comments if you want to surprise me. I will give you a tip. Messes with oil, so ta-da. Unfortunately, this gasket will not self-hold, so we have to do it the whole way. we'll take out here already the intakes. For this I bought here a very special wrench, a 5mm ball end Allen key, which is great unless unless it isn't. Sometimes it escapes and makes it worse. Okay, so the ones that go straight through, I'll try to do with a normal 5, and the ones, oh, this is very too much tightening. Over here I recommend always new bolts to stop this madness. Over here on the 159, the interior door handle has a screw, a bolt. That screw is perfect for this application. You can buy a bag of, well, not a bag, but you can buy 12 over here, and they will do very good. In fact, that is the way that I always do on these engines. Well, on the 3 engines that I did so far. To remove the bolts, it is a little bit more challenging, but if you have a magnet, it will be very easy. This bolt over here already has the washer attached to it. Maybe this is a modification from factory or not. This one, the washer is not attached, so I believe the original ones are really like this, like the old one. But if you want to do 12, recommend you to do the way that I said. I will get the magnet. Well, half of them do not have any washers, another ones have, another ones are not from here. I already seen here a Volkswagen bolt, those green ones. This one too. This is Volkswagen. If it works, but if you want to be thorough, I like to do it thoroughly. So on the old ones I had space. On the 12 valve ones I had a lot of space to do this. On these ones maybe I have to take out this sleeve backwards to create more space. I cannot do it because it has a step over there, so I cannot, on the 12 valve does not have that. Interesting. Well, let's push on and try to see if you can do this, because unlike the 12 valve, this intake manifold is attached to, no, yes, no, yes, no, it's not attached to the to the cover. It seems like it, but it is not. So I can't do it like on the 12 valve. I can release it back. If you are going to use this kind of clamps, try to use a size that is more correct, okay? Just to avoid us to scrape here with our fingers and whatnot. Be careful not to break this. I believe it may happen. So as you can see over here, it ends like this. It appears to be just one piece, but in fact it is not. Now that I think about it, of course it has to be two pieces because of the coils. Sometimes I really am dumb, am I? Another modification that I see over here is the 12 valve ones have an O-ring underneath, and these ones over here have a gasket which appears to be leaking, creating misfires and perhaps bad idle, also bad fuel mileage. As you can see here, these dark spots. If this was a turbo, that's why maybe on the turbo versions, the 12 valve, it is a O-ring. It's much more resistant than this one. Now this is crucial not to let anything go inside there. Also my workshop is open, so birds and flies and wasps and whatever can go in. And washers and bolts and nuts. Now the famous intakes. Já está melhor. Ok? Perfeito. This has a exterior intake manifold, has another part here next to the head. I have to take out, not all at once, I cannot do that. I have to take out this first part and then take out the injector rail and then take out the interior part of the intake. And also that is good because I want to check every hose, every clamp and every pipe. I smell gasoline before, and I think there is something here that is not right. I also can see now that I have a support to hold on to this manifold. It's down here. I have 2 bolts upside down and they go on the engine mount, and I have to take that out, to take this out. here it lies the biggest problem that I find on this head. The head was tested by pressure and heat. It is not cracked, it's perfect. But on this side here, I still have to clean out this mess. I did clean it a little bit, and I realized something. The problem with this head, in part, was on this side. What I discovered here, this intake ports, this part here works on this, right? So, on this chamber here, it uses water, antifreeze. In here you have your intake. What I think happens, the gasket that it was on here was filled with RTV. I really hate the RTV in excess. The RTV was on the gasket, as you can see, but it was really too much. And pieces of this RTV was in fact around the engine cylinders on the block. Water was passing from this chamber to the intake, from here and here and here and here, and it was damaging the valve seats. And the valve seats, all four valve seats were equally damaged. So what I think happened was the gasket in here was bad. They did replace or not the gasket, I don't know. And they applied RTV. And I'm not saying the RTV was the problem, because I don't know. Despite that, the water still passes from here to the intake. I will put my new gasket on here, okay? And I will put a special, it's not a glue, it's more like honey that will fill these micro holes. It's a special glue for paper gaskets or gaskets in general, not non-metallic gaskets. But on this area here, in here, there and there, maybe I will put some. Just a little film of RTV, just right here. It's very important for another thing. It is on this area here that the injectors will spread the gasoline. So if you have some RTV that is passing to this intake, it will interrupt the flow of gasoline, that fan of gasoline, and it will work very bad. Guys, I have some bad news here, really bad news. This surface here of the intake side, it's really pitted. I have a lot of holes, mainly in here. And now I know that the problem started in here. As I said earlier, I don't like to use RTV. I don't want to use RTV, but here I have no choice. I cannot resurface this part because the pits are very deep, and it will cause problems on the injection system because the injector
will be more close to the intake. It will disrupt my flow of gasoline. Now, let's step back a little bit. Why does this happen? Why am I with the engine head on this table right now? Just because one thing, antifreeze. I talk about antifreeze a lot on my channel, and I will talk about as long as I need. And I am 100% sure this problem, it's because antifreeze. The antifreeze, a good quality antifreeze, cannot be on an engine more than 2 years. I will assemble all of this. I will put some good quality antifreeze, and 2 years from now I will take out this antifreeze. I will look at it and say, oh my god, this is new. No, it's not. You cannot ever know if your antifreeze is good or not just by looking at it. If you have that strips to see if the antifreeze is good or not, okay, you can work with that. What is the problem with the antifreeze that is more than 2 years old? The properties of the antifreeze is just not to cool the engine. It's to protect the aluminium, steel and other metals on your engine, okay? And also has some lubricant properties. The problem with that chemistry is after 2 years of use, that antifreeze becomes acidic. Very, very, very acidic. In that way, problems like this start to appear. Bigger still if you use only water. The water with corrosion and the problems will start to eat out your metal. I can pass my finger here and I can feel there's a hole in there. There is an actual hole in there. Not just pitted. A hole. I'm almost sure the water passed through here directly. So the only reason this head is in here right now, it's because the antifreeze was not changed when it was supposed to. Not just 1 or 2 or 3 times. Every single time it was not changed. I am sure of it. In 30 years, you have to change this antifreeze 15 times. What is the price of 15 times to change your antifreeze? And now, what is the price of doing all this work? Which of one is cheaper? Even though I'm doing this at my home, this is more expensive to do than just replace my antifreeze 15 times. A lot more expensive. A lot more. I don't know if I will be able to seal all this. I don't know if I am able to find parts for this. Okay, please change your antifreeze. Don't judge the antifreeze by its looks. Okay, 2 years out. Whatever the quality, the brand, 2 years out. Everything, please. And I thought about this pitting a lot. I thought, and I don't want to put some silicone in there. I talked to a friend of mine, and he told me put this product here, the Neural 27, but this is the 21. The difference that I find, I was not able to find the 27. I think this one, no. It says this one is really slow to cook. It takes 12 hours. In the 27, only takes 5 minutes. I really prefer this method, the 12-hour, because I have time for this. I don't want to rush this repair. I will put this product on these surfaces here, and all of this, just a fine layer to fill these holes. This is really a very big hole in here.
some antifreeze will come out. On this car over here, one thing that was happening was this return line over here was clogged on this area over here, and the coolant was not able to pass through to the reservoir. So sometimes an overheating symptom was present, and when unclogging here with a big drill bit by hand, just filing it down, I was able to solve that issue. Okay, so sometimes an overheating issue or a symptom, like I always say, sometimes it is not, and that is solved. Okay. Regular maintenance on the coolant will avoid this issue. Since I bought this swivel head extension, oh my god, so much easier, all of the work. It was very expensive because I bought a better one. Why did I do that? Because previous of that I bought the cheaper one, and it was very, very, very bad. So I did upgrade to this one. Now over here you have the washers. Make sure to remove them. On this version we have 3 nuts and washers. Very crucial to not to drop them, because once you are removing the intake, they can fall out to the intake, and that is not good. Over here, one of the nuts is not accessible from the top. You have to do it from the side, but the other 2 are. Make sure your vacuum lines are good. I also had on this car here, on the fuel regulator, the vacuum line was all rotten, and I replaced that. Remember my video that I did about the rotten fuel lines, for example, on the 75 and 33. I have a video down on the description, so you can see that. And I dropped the nut. Where is it? Maybe on the floor? Maybe. Well, if it is down, it has no danger to go into the intakes, so I will move on. Broken. Again, beware of your cracked vacuum lines.